Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the Starship Aegis, watching as the massive space station grew larger on the viewing screen. Nexus Prime was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Its metal arms stretched out like a giant spider, covered in lights that blinked in patterns he could not understand. Ships from dozens of alien races moved around it like busy insects. "Sir, we're getting a docking signal," said Park So-min from her station. She was his tactical officer and had been with him for 5 years. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as strange alien symbols appeared on her screen. "Put it through the translator," Lee said. The machine had been working on alien languages for months, but it still made mistakes sometimes. A crackling voice filled the bridge. "Earth vessel Aegis, you will dock at port 779. Follow the guide beam. Do not deviate from the assigned path." Lee frowned at the cold tone. This was supposed to be a welcoming ceremony for Earth's first contact with galactic civilization. It sounded more like orders to a prisoner. "Acknowledged, Nexus Prime. The Aegis is following your guide beam," he replied. Kim Tae-woo looked up from his engineering console. "Captain, their guide beam is using technology I've never seen before. It's pulling us in without touching our ship. The power readings are incredible." Lee nodded. The aliens clearly had technology far beyond what humans possessed. That was expected. What bothered him was how they were being treated like children who might break something if left alone. The docking process took an hour. The station's mechanical arms grabbed the Aegis and pulled it into a berth designed for much larger ships. Through the windows, Lee could see alien workers moving around. Some looked like living crystals that sparkled under the lights. Others were floating clouds of gas that somehow wore clothing. A few looked like giant insects walking on 2 legs. "Captain," said Ambassador Choi Yoo-jin as she entered the bridge. She wore Earth's finest diplomatic uniform, but Lee could see the tension in her shoulders. "Are you ready to make history?" "As ready as anyone can be for something like this," Lee replied. He had been chosen to lead this mission because of his calm nature and ability to stay cool under pressure. Today would test both qualities. They walked through the station's corridors together. The walls were made of materials that seemed to shift color as they moved. Alien writing covered every surface, glowing softly in the dim light. The air smelled strange, like ozone mixed with something sweet that Lee could not identify. Other aliens stopped to stare at them as they passed. Some pointed at the humans and made sounds that might have been laughter. Others simply watched with eyes that held no warmth. Lee felt like an animal in a zoo. The council chamber was enormous. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above their heads. Hundreds of aliens sat in curved rows that formed a perfect circle around a central platform. At the front sat 3 figures that seemed to radiate authority. The first was tall and made entirely of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through its body in slow waves, creating patterns that hurt to look at directly. This had to be one of the Vorthak that Earth's scientists had learned about from intercepted communications. The second being floated above its chair, a constantly shifting cloud of purple gas. Occasionally, Lee could see shapes forming within the cloud, what might have been a face, then hands, then something else entirely. This was a Kilari, one of the gas-formed species that dominated the outer rim of the galaxy. The third alien looked more familiar but still disturbing. It resembled a giant mantis, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the chamber's lights like mirrors. Its movements were precise and mechanical. This was a Nethrim, one of the insectoid races known for their logical thinking and complete lack of emotion. "Approach," said the crystal being. Its voice echoed through the chamber without the need for speakers. "I am Council Prime Zeltharian of the Vorthak Hegemony. With me are High Coordinator Zephyriel of the Quillari Collective and Logic Prime, Ket Nash of the Nethrim Synthesis." Lee and Ambassador Choi walked to the center of the platform. The eyes of hundreds of aliens followed their every step. The silence was so complete that Lee could hear his own heartbeat. "People of Earth," Zeltharian continued, "you have achieved faster-than-light travel and found your way to our galaxy's center. This is impressive for such a young species." The way it said "young" made Lee's jaw tighten. There was no respect in the word, only condescension. Ambassador Choi stepped forward. On behalf of humanity and the planet Earth, I thank the Galactic Council for this opportunity to join the community of spacefaring civilizations. We come in peace, seeking friendship and mutual understanding. Zephyriel's gas form shifted, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like wind through leaves. Peace. Yes, young species often speak of peace when they first leave their home worlds. They have not yet learned the harsh realities of galactic existence. The universe is dangerous, added Kate Nash in a voice like grinding metal. Young species tend to make mistakes. Fatal mistakes. They rush into conflicts they cannot win. They build weapons they cannot control. They destroy themselves before reaching maturity. Zeltharian's crystal body flashed brighter. This is why the Galactic Council has established the Young Species Protection Protocol. Earth will be granted junior membership in our community. You may observe our proceedings and learn from our wisdom. However, for your own protection, you will not be permitted to expand militarily beyond your home system. Lee felt his blood turn cold. This was not what Earth had expected. They had come seeking partnership, not supervision. I don't understand, Ambassador Choi said carefully. Are you saying Earth cannot defend itself? You misunderstand the nature of protection, Zephyriel replied. We will defend you. Our patrol fleets will ensure no harm comes to your world. In return, you will focus on peaceful development under our guidance. For how long? Lee asked, unable to stay silent any longer. All three council leaders turned their attention to him. He felt like a mouse being studied by cats. For as long as necessary, Zeltharian said. Some species mature quickly and earn full membership within a few centuries. Others require longer guidance. A few, sadly, prove unable to accept our wisdom and remove themselves from the equation. The threat was clear even through the diplomatic language. Submit or be destroyed. Lee looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces watching them. Most showed boredom or mild amusement. A few seemed sympathetic, but they said nothing. This was clearly not the first time they had witnessed this scene. Of course, we understand this is a significant adjustment, Ketnash said. You will be given time to inform your government and implement the necessary changes. Our representatives will arrive at Earth within 1 standard year to begin the oversight process. Ambassador Choi maintained her diplomatic smile, but Lee could see the anger burning in her eyes. We are grateful for the Council's protection. However, I must consult with my government before accepting such generous terms. Naturally, Zeltharian said. Youth often requires time to accept wisdom. You have 1 year to prepare. Use it well. The session was clearly over. Guards that looked like walking suits of armor gestured for the humans to follow them. As they left the chamber, Lee heard the buzz of alien conversations starting up again. He caught fragments through his translator. Another young race. They all react the same way. At least these ones seem trainable. Back in their assigned quarters, Lee sat heavily in a chair that had been hastily modified for human anatomy. Ambassador Choi paced back and forth, her diplomatic composure finally cracking. Trainable, she said through gritted teeth. They think we're pets. Kim Tae-woo entered the room, his face grim. Captain, I've been monitoring their communications, the patrol fleets they mentioned. They're already in position around every system belonging to junior species. This isn't protection, it's imprisonment. Lee stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see alien ships moving through space with casual arrogance. For thousands of years, these beings had controlled the galaxy through fear disguised as protection. Young species were kept weak and dependent, never allowed to grow beyond their assigned limits. What do we do? Park So-min asked. Lee was quiet for a long moment, watching the alien ships. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm but carried, an edge of steel. We go home. We tell Earth exactly what we've learned, and then we show these ancient species what happens when they mistake human youth for human weakness. The first seeds of rebellion had been planted. The galaxy's oldest civilizations had made a critical error. They had given humanity a year to prepare. They would soon learn that a year was more than enough time for a young species to grow very, very dangerous. 3 weeks had passed since the meeting with the Galactic Council. Captain Lee Dae-ho walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime with Dr. Han Ji-woo, Earth's lead xenobiologist. They were supposed to be on a cultural exchange tour, but Lee knew it was really just another way for the aliens to show off their superiority. "Look at this," Dr. Han whispered as they passed a display showing galactic history. The holographic images showed the rise and fall of dozens of civilizations. Every single young species that tried to resist the Council just disappears from the records after a few years. Lee studied the display more carefully. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. A species would achieve faster than light, travel, make contact with the Council, and initially accept junior membership. Then, after a few decades or centuries, they would vanish entirely. The official records always listed the cause as civil war or ecological collapse or technological accident. "Convenient accidents," Lee muttered. Their guide, a floating Quilari named Venthmar, drifted closer to them. "You seem troubled by our history, humans. Is there something you do not understand?" Dr. Han forced a smile. "We're just amazed by how long your civilizations have existed. Some of these records go back thousands of years." "Indeed," Venthmar said with obvious pride. "The three primary races have maintained galactic peace for over 10,000 years. Before our guidance, the galaxy was chaos. Young species constantly at war, destroying themselves and others. We brought order." "What happened to the Zelthari?" Lee asked, pointing to one of the disappeared civilizations. "Their records just stop about 50 years ago." Venthmar's gas form darkened slightly. "A tragic case. They were given every opportunity to mature, but they insisted on developing prohibited weapons technology. When we tried to intervene, they fired upon our peacekeeping vessels. The resulting conflict devastated their home system." The casual way it described genocide made Lee's stomach turn. These aliens spoke of wiping out entire civilizations like humans might discuss pruning a garden. Meanwhile, in another part of the station, Kim Tae-woo was having his own disturbing discoveries. He had been invited to tour the alien shipyards as part of the technical exchange program. His cybernetic implants, carefully hidden beneath synthetic skin, were recording everything. The alien ships were massive and impressive, but as Kim studied their design, he began to notice something odd. The technology was incredibly advanced, but it was also incredibly old. The same basic designs had been used for thousands of years with only minor modifications. "This is our newest dreadnought class," his guide, a crystalline Vorthak engineer named Zelfkar, said proudly. "The design has proven so effective that we have seen no need to change it for over 2 millennia. Kim nodded and made appropriate impressed sounds, but inside he was amazed for a different reason. 2,000 years without innovation? On Earth, military technology advanced every few years. These aliens had become so focused on maintaining their superiority that they had stopped trying to improve. The weapons systems were the same story. Massive energy cannons that could destroy a city, but they were slow, predictable, and designed for fighting other slow, predictable targets. They had never had to face an enemy that might use different tactics. "Your ships are very powerful," Kim said carefully. "Do you ever face enemies that require different approaches?" Zelfkar's crystal body flickered with what might have been amusement. "Different approaches? Young species often think they can innovate new forms of warfare. They learn quickly that the old ways are the best ways. Our weapons have destroyed 1,000 fleets. They will destroy 1,000 more." That evening, Lieutenant Colonel Yu Min-ho was attending a diplomatic dinner with representatives from the council races. The food was strange but edible, and the conversation was polite but cold. He found himself seated next to a Nethrim logistics officer named Krexvol. "Tell me," Yu said between courses, "how many junior species are currently under council protection?" Krexvol's compound eyes reflected the dining room lights. "Currently, there are 47 species in various stages of supervised development. Most are progressing satisfactorily." "Most?" 3 species have recently required correction for aggressive tendencies. The Valish attempted to build a fleet of military vessels. The Thornax began developing biological weapons. The Kalari tried to form an alliance with other junior species. Yu kept his expression neutral. "What kind of correction?" "The Valish fleet was destroyed, and their shipbuilding capabilities were removed. the Thornax homeworld was quarantined until their weapons program was eliminated. The Kalari leadership was replaced with more cooperative individuals. The casual mention of destroying fleets and replacing governments made Yu's blood run cold. These aliens didn't just control young species, they actively prevented them from developing any real independence. "Has any junior species ever successfully graduated to full membership?" he asked. Krexvol was quiet for a moment, its mandibles clicking softly. "Define successful," it finally said. Back on Earth, Admiral Song Haye-jin sat in a secure bunker, buried 2 kilometers beneath the Rockies. Around her, holographic displays showed the reports coming in from the delegation at Nexus Prime. The picture they painted was worse than anyone had imagined. "They're not interested in partnership," she said to the assembled Earth Defense Council. "They want permanent control. Any species that gets too strong gets eliminated." General Martinez, head of Earth's space forces, leaned forward. "What about our defenses? Could we resist if they decide we're a threat?" "Not with current technology," Admiral Song admitted. "Their ships are bigger, their weapons more powerful, and they have thousands of years of experience. In a straight fight, we'd lose badly." "Then what do you suggest?" asked President Chen. Admiral Song stood and walked to a tactical display showing Earth's solar system. "They've given us 1 year before their oversight begins. We use that year to level the playing field." "How?" "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their technology is also stagnant," Song replied. "According to Engineer Kim's reports, they haven't innovated in millennia. They've become lazy, overconfident. They expect us to fight like every other species they've conquered. Big ships, direct confrontation, predictable tactics." She touched the display, and it zoomed in on Mars. "Project Prometheus begins today. We're not going to build bigger ships. We're going to build smarter ones. We're not going to match their firepower. We're going to make it irrelevant." Dr. Sarah Thompson, Earth's leading physicist, raised her hand. "Admiral, with respect, we're talking about overcoming a technological gap of thousands of years in just 12 months. That's impossible." "No," Song said firmly. "It's just never been done before. And humans have a talent for doing things that have never been done before." 3 days later, Captain Lee received a coded message during his morning briefing. It appeared to be routine supply information, but his implant decoded it into something very different. "Operation Prometheus is active. Maintain diplomatic facade. Gather all possible technical intelligence. Earth is counting on you." Lee looked around the briefing room at his officers. They all wore carefully neutral expressions, but he could see the determination in their eyes. Ambassador Choi continued discussing trade agreements as if nothing had changed, but her posture was straighter, more confident. That afternoon, Kim Tae-woo volunteered for additional technical tours. He asked innocent questions about power systems and navigation computers, while his hidden implants recorded structural details and energy patterns. The aliens, convinced of their superiority, were happy to show off their technology to the primitive humans. Dr. Han began studying the biological differences between species, ostensibly for medical compatibility research. In reality, she was mapping potential weaknesses and reaction times. The Vorthak were incredibly strong but moved slowly. The Quillari could change shape but needed time to stabilize their forms. The Nethrim were fast and precise, but followed predictable logical patterns. Lieutenant Colonel Yu started asking about historical battles and tactical doctrines. The aliens were eager to share stories of their victories, never realizing they were revealing their strategic limitations. They had fought the same way for so long that their responses had become automatic. As the weeks passed, the human delegation learned the true rules of the galactic game. Junior species were never meant to graduate. They were resources to be managed, and threats to be contained. The council races had created a perfect system for maintaining their dominance forever. But they had made one critical mistake. They had given humanity time to understand the game before the first move was made. And humans had always been very good at finding new ways to play old games. In the depths of space, construction began on weapons that would change everything. The galaxy's oldest civilizations were about to learn that sometimes the youngest player at the table is the most dangerous one. 6 months had passed since the human delegations returned to Earth. To the Galactic Council's monitoring systems, humanity appeared to be following orders perfectly. Earth's military shipyards had reduced production. Weapon research programs were publicly shut down. Ambassador Choi Yu-jin regularly sent reports confirming Earth's compliance with junior species protocols. But deep in the asteroid belt, where no alien sensors could reach, the real work was beginning. Chief Engineer Bae Junseo floated in zero gravity, watching as the first prototype took shape. The construction facility was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, completely hidden from outside detection. Hundreds of human engineers and technicians worked around the clock, assembling something the galaxy had never seen before. Hull plating is complete on Section 7, reported his assistant, Dr. Shin Yoon-ji. She had been Earth's leading materials scientist before volunteering for Project Prometheus. The adaptive armor is responding perfectly to the test simulations. Bae nodded, studying the sleek form taking shape before them. Where alien ships were massive and imposing, this vessel was elegant and deadly. Every line had been designed for speed and maneuverability. The hull could shift its molecular structure to deflect different types of energy weapons. The engines used principles stolen from alien technology, but improved with human innovation. "What's the power output looking like?" he asked. 40% better than our original projections, Dr. Shin replied with excitement. "The hybrid reactor design is incredible. We're getting the energy output of alien fusion cores, but with half the mass and 3 times the efficiency." The breakthrough had come from studying the alien technology Kim Tae-woo had recorded at Nexus Prime. Human scientists discovered that the alien power systems, while powerful, were incredibly wasteful. They had been designed thousands of years ago when efficiency wasn't important. Humans, who had always needed to do more with less, found dozens of ways to improve the designs. On the other side of the solar system, Captain Nam Soo-jin was leading a very different kind of construction. The training facility on Titan looked like a normal research station from the outside. Inside, it housed the most advanced military simulation system ever built. "Initiating Combat Scenario 77 Alpha," she announced to her pilots. The simulation chamber filled with holographic projections of alien warships, perfect copies based on the intelligence gathered during the diplomatic mission. Major Park Chan-woo gripped the controls of his fighter simulator. Around him, 50 other pilots prepared for another round of training against impossible odds. The scenarios were brutal and seemingly unfair. Human ships were outnumbered 10 to 1. Enemy weapons were more powerful. Enemy shields were stronger. But that was the point. "Remember," Captain Nam said over the communication system, "they expect us to fight like everyone else has fought them. Big ships trading shots at long range, predictable attack patterns, formation flying. We're going to do none of those things." The simulation began. Alien dreadnoughts appeared on the displays, massive and threatening. In a traditional battle, human ships would form lines and try to match their firepower. Instead, the human pilots scattered like leaves in the wind. Park's fighter dove under the alien formation, its adaptive hull absorbing and redirecting the energy weapons fired at it. 2 other fighters flanked him, using coordinated micro-jumps that no alien ship could follow. They struck at weapon nodes and sensor arrays, disrupting the aliens' ability to coordinate their attacks. "Target the command ship's communication." "Array!" Commander Lee Mi-young called out. Her squadron had found a blind spot in the alien formation. While the massive alien ships tried to turn their heavy weapons on the fast-moving human fighters, 3 more squadrons attacked from completely different vectors. The simulation ended with the alien fleet disabled and helpless. Not destroyed. That would have been wasteful and cruel, but completely unable to fight back. "Excellent work," Captain Nam said as the pilots powered down their simulators. "Time to completion, 7 minutes, 32 seconds. That's a new record." Major Park removed his helmet, sweat dripping from his face. "Ma'am, this feels almost too easy. Are we sure the alien ships won't be able to adapt to our tactics?" "That's exactly the problem," Nam replied. "They've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They've never had to adapt. Their reaction times are slow, their formations are rigid, and they can't change tactics quickly enough to counter what we're doing." Meanwhile, on Earth's moon, Dr. Han Ji-woo was perfecting another piece of the puzzle: the bio-warfare laboratory. was officially studying alien physiology for medical purposes. Unofficially, it was developing non-lethal weapons designed to incapacitate alien crews without killing them. The Vorthak neural disruption field is ready for testing, her assistant reported. It should interfere with their crystalline nervous system without causing permanent damage. Dr. Hahn nodded. The goal wasn't to commit genocide. It was to remove the aliens' ability to fight while keeping them alive. Dead enemies created martyrs and called for revenge. Defeated but living enemies could be reasoned with, negotiated with, and eventually converted into allies. What about the Quillari gas-form dispersal system? Also ready. It will force them to maintain solid shape for approximately 6 hours. Enough time to end any battle, but not enough to cause lasting harm. The research had been challenging. Human scientists had to understand alien biology well enough to predict how their weapons would affect different species. Too weak, and the weapons would be useless. Too strong, and they would cross the line into lethal force. Earth's leaders had been very clear about that line. Humanity would defend itself, but it would not become the monsters the Galactic Council claimed all young species eventually became. Back in space, the first human stealth ship began its maiden voyage. The vessel was completely invisible to alien sensors, using technology that bent electromagnetic radiation around its hull. To alien detection systems, it simply didn't exist. Commander Lim Ha-na sat in the captain's chair of the Shadow Runner, watching as they approached a Galactic Council patrol ship. The alien vessel was massive, bristling with weapons and sensors. Its crew had no idea that a human ship was less than a kilometer away, recording every detail of their technology and tactics. Their sensor sweep just passed right through us, her tactical officer reported with amazement. As far as they know, this area of space is completely empty. Good, Commander Lim said. Begin deep scan of their weapon systems. I want to know exactly how long it takes them to lock onto a target and fire. The stealth ships were gathering intelligence on alien patrol patterns, response times, and weak points. Every Galactic Council vessel in the solar system was being watched and analyzed. When the time came for conflict, humans would know exactly where every enemy ship was and how it would react. On Earth, Admiral Song Hae-jin stood in the primary command center, watching displays that showed the progress of dozens of secret projects. Asteroid mining facilities that were really shipyards, research stations that were really weapons labs, training academies that were really preparing for war. Status report, she commanded. 17 stealth destroyers are now operational, reported General Martinez. Pilot training is ahead of schedule. Our intelligence network has mapped 87% of alien tactical doctrine. Weapon systems are testing at 112% of projected effectiveness. Admiral Song nodded. And our official compliance status? Perfect, said Colonel Wright with a slight smile. According to all diplomatic channels, Earth is being a model junior species. We've reduced military spending, limited ship construction, and focused on peaceful development. The Galactic Council is very pleased with our progress. The deception was working flawlessly. The aliens' own arrogance was their weakness. They were so convinced of their superiority that they never questioned the reports they received. They saw what they expected to see, another young species learning its place in the galactic order. Admiral, said Dr. Kim from the research division, I have the final analysis of alien command and control systems. Their ships are networked together, but the network has a critical vulnerability. If we can disrupt their primary command ship, the entire fleet will lose coordination for approximately 43 minutes. How long do our pilots need to disable an alien fleet? 8 to 12 minutes, depending on the size. Admiral Song allowed herself a rare smile. Then we have a margin for error. As the months passed, more human ships were completed in secret. Pilots trained on increasingly complex scenarios. Scientists perfected weapons that could incapacitate without killing. Engineers built systems that were generations ahead of anything the aliens possessed. The Galactic Council's representatives were due to arrive in 3 months to begin their oversight of Earth. They expected to find a compliant young species ready to accept permanent subjugation. Instead, they would discover that humanity had used their gift of time to prepare a surprise that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Captain Lee Dae-ho, still playing his role as a diplomatic observer at Nexus Prime, sent his final encoded report back to Earth. Package delivery is confirmed for the scheduled date. All recipients will be very surprised by the contents. The trap was set. Now hum. The Galactic Council's evaluation fleet arrived at Earth exactly 1 year after first contact. Admiral Vorthek of the Vorthak Navy commanded the massive force from his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 5 kilometers long and bristled, with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Around it, 37 other alien warships formed a perfect attack formation. Captain Lee Dae-ho watched from the bridge of the upgraded Aegis as the alien fleet took position near Mars. His ship looked almost the same as it had a year ago, but appearances were deceiving. Every system had been rebuilt with hybrid human-alien technology. The hull plating could adapt to different types of energy weapons. The engines could accelerate and turn in ways that violated alien understanding of physics. Incoming transmission. From the alien flagship, reported Park So-min from her tactical station. Her console showed information that would have amazed the aliens. Complete scans of every ship in their fleet, including weak points and blind spots. Put it through, Lee said calmly. Admiral Vorthek's crystal form appeared on the main screen. Light pulsed through his body in patterns that indicated supreme confidence. Captain Lee of Earth, I am Admiral Vorthek. I have come to conduct the military evaluation of your species as required by Galactic Council protocols. Welcome to Earth's solar system, Admiral, Lee replied with perfect diplomatic courtesy. We are ready to demonstrate our capabilities, as requested. Excellent, Vorthek said. You will deploy your defensive fleet and attempt to protect your homeworld from our simulated attack. This exercise will help us determine Earth's military maturity and appropriate level of Council oversight. Lee almost smiled at the alien's arrogance. This wasn't really a test. It was an execution disguised as an evaluation. The Galactic Council had already decided that humanity was too dangerous to remain independent. This exercise would demonstrate human weakness and justify permanent occupation. We understand, Admiral. Our fleet is ready to deploy. The transmission ended and Lee turned to his crew. Commander Kim So-young had arrived from Earth with additional ships. Tactical Officer Ryu Jae-min was coordinating with the other human vessels. Everything looked normal and predictable to alien sensors. All ships, this is Captain Lee, he announced over the fleet communication system. Execute Protocol Omega on my mark. Remember, we want them alive, but helpless. Across the solar system, 23 human ships acknowledged the order. To alien sensors, they appeared to be standard military vessels, smaller than alien ships, but armed with conventional weapons. The aliens had no idea they were looking at the most advanced fighting machines ever built. Admiral Vorthek studied the tactical display on his bridge. The human fleet was pitifully small compared to his force. Their ships looked primitive and poorly armed. This would be over quickly, which was exactly what the Council wanted. Begin the evaluation, he ordered his fleet commanders. Standard Formation 7. We will demonstrate the futility of resistance and then accept their surrender, the alien. Ships moved forward in perfect formation, their massive weapons charging with visible energy. They advanced slowly and majestically, as they had in 1,000 previous battles against 1,000 previous species. Their tactics hadn't changed in millennia because they had never needed to change. Captain Lee watched the alien approach and felt a moment of sadness for what was about to happen. These beings honestly believed they were superior because they had won so many times before. They had no idea that all their previous enemies had fought using the same outdated methods. Mark, he said quietly. The human fleet scattered like a school of fish, avoiding a predator. Ships that had been in tight formation suddenly spread across three-dimensional space, moving in patterns no alien commander had ever seen. The Aegis dropped below the orbital plane while 3 destroyers flanked the alien formation from impossible angles. What are they doing? Admiral Vorthek demanded of his tactical officer. Their formation makes no sense. Unknown, Admiral, the officer replied, confusion clear in its crystalline voice. They appear to be avoiding direct confrontation. Cowards, Vorthek said with satisfaction. Begin targeted attacks on their command ship. Show them the price of resistance. The alien weapons fired, but the human ships were no longer where the targeting computers expected them to be. Captain Oh Dong-hyun's destroyer passed directly through the energy beam meant to destroy it, the adaptive hull plating absorbing and redirecting the energy harmlessly. Impossible, breathed the alien tactical officer. Our weapons had a direct hit. Admiral Vorthek's confidence wavered slightly. Increase power and fire again. But the human ships were already moving. Commander Lim Hana's squadron used micro-jumps to appear behind the alien formation, targeting sensor arrays and communication systems with surgical precision. Their weapons weren't designed to destroy, they were designed to disable. The alien fleet tried to turn and bring their heavy weapons to bear, but their ships were massive and slow. By the time they could react, the human fighters were already somewhere else, striking from a new direction. "Admiral," called out the communications officer, "we're losing contact with ships 4 through 7. Their sensor systems appear to be malfunctioning." "How is that possible?" Vorthek demanded. "Human weapons are too primitive to penetrate." "Our shields." Captain Lee's voice cut across all communication frequencies, calm and controlled. "Admiral Vorthek, your shields are designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. Our weapons adapt and learn. Every shot you fire teaches them how to penetrate your defenses more effectively." It was true. Human weapons used adaptive algorithms that analyzed alien shield frequencies in real time. Each attack was slightly different from the last, probing for weaknesses and exploiting them. The alien shields, designed to stop predictable attacks, were helpless against weapons that evolved with every shot. Tactical Officer Ryu Jae-min coordinated the human attack with ruthless efficiency. Squadron Alpha, target the flagship's main sensor array. Squadron Beta, disable their weapon control systems. Squadron Gamma, prepare to neutralize their engines. The human ships moved like a pack of wolves hunting a herd of elephants. They were smaller and individually weaker, but they were faster, smarter, and coordinated in ways the aliens couldn't match. Admiral Vorthek watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was systematically taken apart. His ship's weapons couldn't hit the fast-moving human vessels. His shields couldn't stop their adaptive attacks. His tactical computers couldn't predict their movements. "All ships, emergency retreat." "Protocol," he ordered desperately. "Fall back to defensive formation 9. But it was too late. Commander Kim So-young's squadron had already disabled the engines on half the alien fleet. The massive warships drifted helplessly in space, their weapon systems dark, and their communication arrays silent. "Admiral," Captain Lee said, his voice still perfectly polite, "your fleet is disabled but unharmed. Your crews are alive and well. This demonstration is now complete." In less than 8 minutes, the most powerful military force in the galaxy had been reduced to helpless scrap metal. Not a single alien had been killed, but their ability to fight had been completely eliminated. Admiral Vorthek stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Every ship in his fleet showed as disabled or severely damaged. Warning lights blinked across his bridge as system after system reported malfunctions. His mighty dreadnought, the terror of 100 worlds, was as helpless as a child's toy. "How?" he whispered. Captain Lee appeared on his main screen, and for the first time the human wasn't showing diplomatic courtesy. His expression was calm but hard as steel. "You made the mistake that every bully makes, Admiral. You assumed that because you had always won before, you would always win in the future. You forgot that young species grow up." The implications hit Vorthek like a physical blow. If humans could do this to his fleet, they could do it to any fleet. The technological superiority that the Galactic Council had relied on for millennia was suddenly meaningless. "But how did you advance so quickly?" Vorthek asked, his crystal form flickering with confusion and fear. "You gave us time," Lee replied simply. "You told us we had a year to prepare. You never considered that a year might be enough time for a motivated species to change everything." Across the alien fleet, emergency systems activated as the disabled ships tried to restore basic functions. Human technical teams were already standing by to assist with repairs, another demonstration that this had been about defeating the aliens' ability to fight, not destroying them completely. Captain Lee opened a communication channel to the entire alien fleet. "To all Galactic Council forces, you are defeated but not destroyed. Your crews are safe, and we will provide assistance to restore your life support and navigation systems." This action was taken in defense of Earth's independence, not as an act of aggression against your people. The message was carefully crafted to show strength without cruelty, victory without vengeance. Earth had just demonstrated that it could destroy any alien fleet sent against it, but had chosen mercy instead. The psychological impact would be devastating to alien confidence and inspiring to other young species. As human repair teams began docking with disabled alien ships, Admiral Vortex sat in his command chair and tried to process what had. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the Chamber's 10,000-year history. Council Prime Zeltharian's crystal form pulsed with agitated light as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Admiral Vortex, defeat at Earth had sent shockwaves through every alien civilization. "Explain to me," Zeltharian said, his voice echoing with barely controlled rage, "how a single young species defeated our most powerful fleet in 8 minutes. Admiral Vortex stood in the center of the chamber, his crystal body dimmed with shame. Around him, hundreds of alien representatives whispered in dozens of languages. The fear in their voices was obvious even through the translation systems. "The humans used tactics we have never encountered," Vortex reported. "Their ships moved in ways our computers could not predict. Their weapons adapted to our defenses in real time. Our formations, our strategies, our technology, none of it was effective against their approach." High Coordinator Zephyriel's gas form swirled with agitation. "You're telling us that primitive humans developed superior military technology in less than 1 year? That is impossible." "I watched it happen," Vortex replied. "Their ships are smaller than ours, but far more advanced. They use some kind of hybrid technology that combines our principles with innovations we never considered." Logic. Prime Ketnash of the Nethrim leaned forward, its compound eyes reflecting the chamber's lights. "Show us the tactical recordings." The chamber's main display activated, showing the battle from multiple angles. The assembled aliens watched in horrified fascination as their supposedly invincible fleet was systematically dismantled by human forces they had dismissed as primitive. "Look at their formations," whispered a Kilari military analyst. "They don't follow any recognized tactical doctrine. Their ships move independently but coordinate perfectly." "Their weapons," added a Vorthak engineer, "they change frequency with every shot. Our shields were designed to stop consistent energy patterns. These weapons evolve faster than our defenses can adapt." The recording reached the moment where human ships passed through alien energy beams without taking damage. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. "Adaptive hull plating," Ketnash said, its voice unusually quiet for a Nethrim. "We theorized about such technology centuries ago, but determined it was impossible to implement." "Impossible for us," Zeltharian corrected grimly. "Apparently not impossible for them." The implications were staggering. If humans could develop such advanced technology so quickly, what would they be capable of in 10 years? 100 years? The entire foundation of galactic civilization was built on the assumption that the 3 primary races would always maintain technological superiority. "Sir," interrupted a communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human ship Retribution. Admiral Song Hye-jin is requesting permission to address the council." Zeltharian's crystal form flashed with anger. "They dare to come here? After attacking our forces?" "They defeated our forces," Vorthak corrected quietly. "And they did so without killing a single alien. Every crew member was left alive and unharmed. The distinction was important. Destruction of a council fleet would have been an act of war requiring immediate retaliation. Disabling the fleet while preserving life was something else entirely, a demonstration of power restrained by mercy. "Grant them permission," Zeltharian said finally. "Let us hear what these children have to say." The main display shifted to show the bridge of the human flagship. Admiral Song Hye-jin appeared, wearing the blue uniform of Earth's Space Force. Her expression was calm, but unyielding. Behind her, Captain Lee Dae-ho and Dr. Han Ji-woo stood at attention. "Council Prime, Zeltharian," Admiral Song said with perfect diplomatic courtesy. "Thank you for allowing me to address the Council. I come to discuss the future of human-galactic relations." "You come as a conqueror," Zephyriel accused. "Your forces attacked and disabled a Council fleet." "We defended ourselves against an unprovoked attack," Song replied evenly. "Admiral Vortex, Fleet came to Earth with the intention of demonstrating our helplessness and justifying permanent occupation. Instead, we demonstrated our capability and our restraint. Ketnash leaned forward. How did your species advance so rapidly? Our intelligence indicated that human technology was centuries behind our own. Dr. Han stepped forward. May I answer? That, Admiral. Song nodded, and Dr. Han addressed the Council directly. Your intelligence was correct about our starting point, but wrong about our potential. You've spent thousands of years perfecting the same technologies and tactics. You stopped innovating because you stopped needing to innovate, she gestured to the tactical display, which now showed technical comparisons between human and alien systems. Your power systems are incredibly advanced, but also incredibly wasteful. Your ships are massive and powerful, but slow and predictable. Your weapons are devastating but inflexible. We adapted your technologies using human engineering principles, she continued. Efficiency over size, flexibility over raw power, innovation over tradition. The result is systems that are smaller, faster, and more adaptable than anything you've built. The assembled aliens studied the technical data with growing amazement and concern. Human ships used 40% less power while achieving 60% better performance. Human weapons required half the space and resources while delivering more precise results. This is impossible, protested a Vorthak engineer. These efficiency gains violate known physical principles. Lieutenant No Kyung-ho, who had been part of the technical team, smiled slightly. They violate principles you've relied on for so long that you forgot they were just guidelines, not laws. He activated a portable interface device and connected it to the chamber's computer system. Within seconds, he had gained access to systems that were supposed to be impenetrable. Your security protocols, he explained as he navigated through the Council's databases, are designed to stop attacks, using your own methodologies. They're helpless against adaptive intrusion algorithms that learn and evolve in real time. The security breach sent panic through the chamber. If humans could access their most secure systems so easily, what else could they do? Enough, Seltharian commanded. Disconnect your device immediately. Already done, No replied, powering down the interface. I accessed your systems to make a point, not to cause damage. Everything remains exactly as it was. Admiral Song stepped forward again. This demonstration illustrates the fundamental problem with your approach to galactic governance. You've created a system designed to prevent change, innovation, and growth. You've turned the galaxy into a museum where only your civilizations are allowed to advance. We maintained peace, Zephyriel protested. Before the Council system, the galaxy was in constant warfare. You maintained stagnation, Song corrected. You prevented young species from reaching their potential because you were afraid they might surpass you. Your fear has made you weak. The accusation hit home. Around the chamber, alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. Many of them remembered stories from their own species' early days, when innovation and exploration had driven their civilizations. To greatness, what do you propose? Ketnash asked. The Nethrim's logical mind could see where this conversation was leading. Admiral Song smiled for the first time since the transmission began. We propose a new system. One where every species, young or old, has the right to develop their full potential. One where innovation is encouraged rather than suppressed. One where cooperation replaces domination. She gestured, and the display showed a star map of the galaxy. The New Galactic Alliance. Open to any species that wants to grow, explore, and build a better future together. Those who prefer the old ways are welcome to maintain their current territories, but they will no longer be permitted to suppress others. The chamber erupted in voices speaking a dozen languages. Some aliens sounded outraged at the suggestion of losing their privileged positions. Others seemed intrigued by the possibility of change. Seltharian raised his hand for silence. And if the Council refuses this alliance? Then you remain in your territories while the rest of the galaxy moves forward without you, Song replied. We will not attack you, but we will no longer tolerate attacks on others. Every junior species that asks for our protection will receive it. The threat was clear without being spoken. The Galactic Council could maintain its power only as long as it could project military force. Human technology had made that force irrelevant. You would destroy thousands of years of civilization, Zephyriel said. We would transform it, Captain Lee interjected, speaking for the first time. The choice is yours. Evolve with us, or remain. Trapped in the past, but the age of keeping other species as prisoners is over. Admiral Song looked directly at each of the three council leaders. You have 7 days to decide. Those who wish to join the alliance will be welcomed as equals. Those who prefer isolation will be left alone. But the systematic suppression of young species ends now. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council was not the supreme power in the galaxy. The children they had tried to control had grown up and seized control of their own destiny. The age of human ascendancy had begun. 6 months after Admiral Song's ultimatum, the galaxy was transforming in ways no one had imagined possible. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the observation deck of the New Alliance headquarters, a massive space station built in the neutral zone, between former Council territories. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see ships from dozens of species docking at the station's many ports. The sight still amazed him. Kalari vessels with their organic curves flew alongside angular. Thornax destroyers, human ships shared docking bays with reformed Kalari craft. Species that had been suppressed for centuries were finally free to explore their potential. "Captain," said Ambassador Choi Yu-jin as she joined him at the window, "the morning briefing is ready to begin." Lee nodded and followed her to the main conference room. The space was designed to accommodate the biological needs of over 30 different species. Environmental controls maintained separate atmospheric zones. Gravity fields adjusted to match the comfort levels of various delegates. Translation systems worked in real time to bridge communication gaps. Admiral Song Hee-jin called the meeting to order. "Status report from all sectors," she announced. Captain Park In-soo stood first. "Liberation operations are proceeding ahead of schedule. The Vailish have been freed from their quarantine and are already rebuilding their fleet. The Zelthari survivors we rescued from their destroyed homeworld are establishing a new colony with full defensive capabilities." Lee smiled at that news. The Zelthari had been one of the species the Galactic Council claimed had destroyed themselves. In reality, they had been relocated to a prison world after refusing to submit to Council authority. Finding them alive had been one of the Alliance's first major victories. "The former junior species are adapting quickly to their new freedom," continued Park. "Most are requesting technical assistance and training programs. They want to modernize their defenses as quickly as possible." Dr. Han Ji-woo added her report. "Scientific cooperation is exceeding all projections. When species are allowed to share knowledge freely, innovation accelerates exponentially. We've made breakthrough advances in medical technology, environmental restoration, and energy efficiency just in the past month." The transformation had been remarkable. For millennia, the Galactic Council had hoarded knowledge and technology, sharing only limited information with subjugated species. The Alliance operated on completely opposite principles: open sharing of scientific discoveries and collaborative research programs. "What about the Council races?" Admiral Song asked. Captain Nam Soo-jin, now serving as Alliance Intelligence Director, consulted her datapad. "Mixed reactions. The Nethrim have officially requested membership in the Alliance. Their logical analysis concluded that cooperation offers better outcomes than isolation. That decision had surprised many. The Nethrim had been one of the founding races of the Galactic Council, but their commitment to pure logic made them adaptable to new circumstances when the old ones proved ineffective. "The Quilari are divided," Nam continued. "Progressive factions, led by Quindalith, are pushing for Alliance membership, while traditionalists want to maintain the old system. They're essentially in a civil war of ideology." Lee wasn't surprised by that either. The Quilari's gas-form biology made them naturally individualistic. Once some of them saw the benefits of the Alliance system, others would inevitably follow. "And the Vorthak?" Song asked. Nam's expression darkened. "Council Prime Zeltharian has rejected all Alliance overtures. He's consolidated control over the remaining Council loyalists and declared the Alliance an illegal rebellion. They've withdrawn to their core systems and are preparing for what they call the Restoration." The Vorthak had always been the most prideful of the Council races. Their crystal biology made them incredibly long-lived, and some individuals could remember the original establishment of the Council system. They viewed the alliance as a temporary aberration that would eventually collapse. "Any military preparations?" Song asked. "They're building ships using their traditional designs," Nam reported. "Massive dreadnoughts with heavy armor and powerful weapons. Intelligence suggests they believe they can win through superior firepower and numerical advantage." Admiral Kim Woo-jin, who had been quietly reviewing tactical reports, looked up from his data pad. "They still don't understand what happened at Earth. They think our victory was luck or some kind of technological trick they can counter with bigger guns." Lee shook his head. "It wasn't about technology. It was about thinking differently. They've been fighting the same way for so long that they can't imagine any other approach." "Then they'll lose the same way," Song said matter-of-factly. "Any species that requests our protection will receive it. If the Vorthak want to test our resolve, they'll discover that our capabilities have only improved since Earth." The meeting continued with reports from across the galaxy. Former Council territories were rapidly democratizing as suppressed populations gained access to Alliance technology and support. Trade networks were expanding as species that had been isolated for centuries began establishing relationships with each other. Scientific research was accelerating as brilliant minds from dozens of civilizations worked together on common problems. But the most remarkable change was in the young species themselves. Dr. Shin Yun-ji, now heading the Alliance Technology Council, presented her latest findings. The innovation rate among newly liberated species is unprecedented. When you remove artificial constraints and provide access to advanced tools, biological and technological evolution accelerates dramatically. The data was staggering. Species that had been stagnant for centuries under Council rule were making breakthrough discoveries within months of gaining their freedom. Medical advances that should have taken decades were being achieved in weeks through collaborative research. "It's as if the entire galaxy had been sleeping," Dr. Shin continued, "and we woke it up." Lieutenant Colonel Yu Min-ho raised his hand. "What about security concerns? All this rapid development could create new threats." "That's why we maintain the peacekeeping fleet," Admiral Song replied. "But our mandate is protection, not control. If a species wants to pursue dangerous research, we provide guidance and safety protocols. We don't forbid innovation. We help make it safer." The philosophical difference was crucial. The Galactic Council had prevented advancement to maintain stability. The Alliance encouraged advancement while managing the risks. It was a much more complex approach, but the results spoke for themselves. As the briefing concluded, Lee found himself thinking about the strange path that had brought them to this point. A year and a half ago, humanity had been an isolated species, taking its first tentative steps into space. Now they were leading a galactic transformation that was reshaping civilization itself. "Penny for your thoughts?" Ambassador Choi asked as they walked back toward the observation deck. "Just reflecting on how much has changed," Lee replied. "When we first met the Galactic Council, I thought we were the ones who needed to learn from them. Turns out it was the other way around." "Maybe it always is," Choi said thoughtfully. "Maybe the student teaches the teacher just by asking questions they've forgotten how to ask." Through the windows, Lee could see a convoy of ships preparing to depart for the Outer Rim. Captain Oh Dong-hyun was leading a joint human-Kalari expedition to explore star systems that had been off-limits under Council rule. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy was expanding again instead of contracting. His communication device chimed with an incoming message. "Captain Lee, this is Commander Lim Hana aboard the Pathfinder. We've just received a distress call from the Zerion system. A Vorthak fleet is attacking one of the liberated worlds," Lee sighed. "How many ships?" 47 vessels, including 3 super dreadnoughts. The local defense forces are requesting immediate assistance. "Tell them help is on the way," Lee replied. He activated the general alert system throughout the station. "This is Captain Lee to all Alliance vessels. Prepare for emergency deployment. We have a situation in the Zerion system." Within minutes, the Alliance response fleet was assembling. 36 ships from 8 different species formed up in attack formation. The vessels represented the new philosophy of galactic defense: smaller, faster, and more adaptable than the massive council ships of the old era. As Lee took his position aboard the Aegis, he thought about what they were about to face. The Vorthak had chosen to make their stand at Zerion, probably hoping that a decisive victory would convince other species to return to the old system. They were about to learn that the age of Council dominance was truly over. "All ships, prepare for jump to hyperspace," Admiral Song announced from the Retribution. "Today we defend not just Zirion, but the principle that every species has the right to determine its own destiny." The Alliance fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes of a galaxy finally free to reach its full potential. Behind them, at the Alliance headquarters, representatives from dozens of worlds continued the work of building a better future. The young species had grown up. The old order was passing away, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the depths of space, the Vorthak fleet waited at Zirion, confident in their superior numbers and firepower. They were about to discover that evolution didn't always favor the biggest Predi.